you may want to take a position in Bitcoin because it's not something that's unlimited. It has scarcity. And that seems to be what's driving its latest price appreciation. And as a result, the coin has moved past $100,000 in value. I think the market has spoken on Bitcoin. I think it's here to stay.
Welcome, folks, to CryptoNews Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is June 4th, 2025, and Mr. Wonderful has spoken. You might want to make a position on Bitcoin, he says. On today's show, take rent, invest that. How Grant Cardone is mixing real estate and Bitcoin. Also, Russia's biggest stock exchange debuts BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin futures ETF for trading. And on today's show, JPMorgan, Mr. Naysayer himself, now to accept Bitcoin ETFs as collateral for loans. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome again to Crypto News Global. I am your host, Nick Toka. Let's go through some unfinished business we were talking about the other day, where we were comparing Ollama local AI models. I had downloaded a huge 67 full, the latest Llama 4 to kind of demonstrate. But it was taking so long to download that I figured I would just flip it into the next show today. And we just want to compare it against the standard model that most people should be using, you know, the 4 or 5 gig model. So let's get right into that first off. So here we've got the newest one here, and as you see, it is 67 gigs, massive, right? So let's run it. Llama run, and we're just going to copy and paste the one we want. That's our guy. You'll see right off the hop that this takes a while to actually load. Like you can, I don't know if you can hear my processor on the CPU spinning up here, but just to launch this thing, because of the model, it takes a while just to run, right? So, and then we're going to ask just a simple question, and we'll also see, because I've already tested this thing, we'll see it's slow as shit. So I'm going to recommend, even before we get into this testing, that if you're going to go with Ollama or if you're going to go with Jan, you choose a reasonable model. Don't go with the 70 gig or the 400 or 600 gig model, because it's just going to take forever to do any kind of search. So here it's finally opened up. It took over 30 seconds to actually run. So what is the current price of Bitcoin? And you would think it would come back with a super fast response, but no, there it is, spinning up again, and it's taken a while. So once we get a response from this, I'm going to then run through a comparison with Llama 3.1, which is only 5 gigs. All right, and you'll see when I run that one, it's going to be literally instantaneous. Whereas this thing, we're so used to, you know, ChatGPT, Grok, you type in your question to the AI and it comes back almost immediately, right? It at least starts typing right away. Whereas this thing, it's just not meant for home computing. It's meant for, you know, big data centers running, who knows, 10, 20, 30 GPUs to do all this processing. And then, you know, here's my computer, which is a decent computer. You guys see my box. It's not shit, right? It's a good box. but it's taking forever because it's not really powerful enough to go through 67 gigs of this model and come back with a super fast response. See, it's still thinking. It's been about a minute at least, and it's literally just sitting there thinking about the answer. And it's such a simple question: what's the current price of Bitcoin? And you can pretty much sit and twiddle your thumbs, and it's going to come back with the answer, but it's not fast. Because it's such a large model, 67 gigs. When you are dealing with Ollama, it always gives you choices. You can run, we'll just go into it here quickly while we wait anyway. Ollama.com, models, and you see here 1.5B, 7B, 8B, 14B, 32. And this reflects pretty much to the size of it as well. If you click into it, it then gives you the actual sizes. So, you can go with the full model, 404 gigs in DeepSeek, but it's not going to run well on your computer. As we're seeing, even the 60 whatever gig, it still hasn't come back with an answer. So if you're going to run the local model, I highly recommend it, at least for testing, right? You want to go with 5 gig, 9 gig potentially might work well. And each of these models, once you click into them, and there's, a ton of them, right? This is what I grabbed here, 67 gigs latest. They don't have a trimmed down version. They've got 3.3, which is also massive. The 3.2, then you go ultra tiny, and I think the full model, which was 3.1, has kind of that nice sweet spot of 5 gigs. So I'd recommend something like that. Let's see if it actually finished. Holy shit, it's still searching. Yeah, so proof is in the pudding. This is just taking way too long to come back with the most basic question and answer. We're going to let it finish, but man, it is taking a long, long time. I don't know if I want to sit here. Check this out fast while I await, and it's just taking forever. I don't know if I can sit and wait this long, to be honest. Yeah, I really don't know if this is worth it. Check this out fast while I wait. Checking out my own stream because I'm getting, it seems to be some kind of error here. Again, current price of Bitcoin still not happening. Ridiculous, right? So I don't know how much I want to wait. I think I'm going to go straight into our Bitcoin technical analysis. Yeah, we're going to bring this to the side because I don't have all day to wait for this thing. Let's get into our technical analysis. Bitcoin current price at 105,000, down 0.5% for the day. Ethereum sitting even at 26.21. Solana down 2%, 153 bucks. XRP down 2%, $2.20. Doge down 3% at just under 19 cents. Taking a look at the crypto bubbles, we've got almost everything in the red today on the back of more tariff talks, of course. But about 90% in the red for the day. Looking at the weekly, pretty much everything also in the red for the week except White Rock, which is up 144%. But if we look at the daily, actually, yeah, it's one of the only ones that's up for the day as well. And for the monthly, we've got about 95%, we'll call it 90% in the green, including this White Rock, 250%, Hype up 75%, WIF 60%, SPX up 122%. Total market cap, Bitcoin currently sitting at $2.1 trillion, Ethereum 316 billion, XRP 129 billion, Solana 80 billion, Doge 28 billion, Tron 25 billion, Cardano 24 billion bucks. Looking at the total crypto market cap, it's sitting at 3.25 trillion bucks, with Bitcoin holding 64.17% of that, Ethereum 9.7%, XRP 4% of the total crypto supply. Looking at the M2 global money supply, we've got the price as we see every day following very closely. The pink line is the M2 money supply. The white line is Bitcoin price, trailing behind about just under 3 months from the M2 money supply price. And if we zoom in, which we like to do, Bitcoin's price is trailing off a little bit here as the M2 money supply kind of levels off a little bit. I won't be surprised. We've gone through this many times. We're going to see the price, the M2 money supply is starting to really skyrocket around the world. We've talked about this before, how China's in a big housing crisis. Japan's economy is failing. The big beautiful bill in the States is going to be passed, spending into trillions of dollars. Europe is already printing money. So expect this is going to go up, and along with it, we're going to also see Bitcoin's price following along on the positive side. Total hash rate is up a little bit today, and over 942 billion terahashes per second is the all-time high. Right now we're at 930 billion terahashes a second. Crypto Fear and Greed Index brings us at a 55 in neutral. Yesterday was a 57 in neutral. Last week was a 65 in greed. There's 1,042 days left until the next Bitcoin halving 2028, with 150,000 blocks until the halving. Assets by market cap globally, we've got gold at 22.7 trillion, Nvidia at 3.4 trillion, Microsoft 3.4 trillion. Nvidia and Microsoft have been kind of flip-flopping this week, who's number 2 and who's number 3. Apple at 3 trillion, Amazon 2.2 trillion, Bitcoin 2.1 trillion, as we already noted. Google 2 trillion, Silver 1.9 trillion, Meta 1.7 trillion, and Saudi in the number 10 position, 1.6 trillion bucks. You can currently get 952 satoshis for one US fiat dollar. And the US national debt is currently sitting at 36 trillion 938 billion, equaling 107,838 per citizen, or 323,051 per US taxpayer. Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, has saved $506 billion and counting. That equals to $4,507 per US taxpayer. Now, this is insane. I'm just going to end this because it's still running. Like that's just insanity. So let's just go buy. I'm not even going to entertain this. I'm going to go remove. Actually, before I do that, let's compare this to a smaller model. We'll call it the Ollama 3.1. And just so I don't have to type it, run Ollama 3.1, and you'll see this thing's going to run pretty much right away, unless something's going on with my PowerShell, but there it is. And let's pose the same question to it, which is, what's the current price of Bitcoin? And this should come up with a very, very fast answer. It didn't actually paste. Let's do that again. Current price of Bitcoin. And you see that you're getting an immediate answer. However, I'm a large language model. I don't have access to real-time data, but I can suggest some ways for you to find out. So, not as intelligent as, your ChatGPT or your Grok, which I prefer quite a bit. If you went into either of those, let's just go into my nice image creator here. I'll save that. And let's paste the same thing. What's the current price of Bitcoin? And still has to think for a couple seconds, but we will get a response. Now, going back, right, even with the chart and everything, going back here for other things, create a chart of Bitcoin price annually since 2011. Right? It will do certain things. I guess it's not good at real-time data. But you see, it's super fast, right? Yeah, I hear my my CPU spinning up here, but certainly it's fast, it's responsive, and that's running the 5 gig model, not the 50. The 50 gig model runs like absolute shit, and I'm going to remove it here, which is the command is Ollama rm remove, and there, and deleted. So now if I go list, you'll see it's not in my list anymore. Right, so keeping it around this size is a good idea. 4 gigs, 5 gigs, it runs pretty well. I'm a little surprised it didn't come back with more current data. It's coming until 2022, which is not ideal. But you do have the benefit of running this thing locally. There's some things that it is better at, I have found. But again, you're running it locally. None of your information is being sent to, Grok or ChatGPT or anything or anyone except you. So you can kind of be assured that, no one's stealing your private information or your searches, which is definitely a very good thing. Now, there's some brilliant people out there. We've got Michael Saylor. Of course, now we've got Mr. Wonderful, as you saw in the intro there. And they're definitely advocating Bitcoin. Even presidents, Trump, Vance, countries around the world are advocating Bitcoin. And we have some other people that have great takes on how to obtain Bitcoin. And this gent here, Grant Cardone, takes rent, invests it, and how Grant Cardone is mixing real estate and Bitcoin. Your grandma may never fully comprehend Bitcoin, but she probably understands why an apartment building has value, according to real estate entrepreneur Grant Cardone. Combining Bitcoin and real estate into a single offering, Cardone told Decrypt in Las Vegas last week that his new line of funds is aimed at investors who may have little to no Bitcoin exposure. The company, Cardone Capital in South Florida, has $5 billion in assets under management. You live in it, you rent it, you drive it, and a lot of people have made money on it, Cardone said. if you could add Bitcoin to it as well, you're going to hurt your cash flow a little bit. But you're going to have your tenants buying your Bitcoin for you. The entrepreneur recently announced the debut of the 10x Miami River Bitcoin Fund, a 346-unit property sitting on the Miami River serves as the fund's anchor asset, while monthly income is set aside for strategic Bitcoin purchases. The fund tied to the Miami River property represents Cardone's fourth investment vehicle, combining real estate, a 2,000-year-old asset class, with Bitcoin, a nascent and volatile investment that could theoretically juice the long-term returns. For a property located up north in Fort Lauderdale, Cardone plans on letting tenants become investors too. Now, Michael Saylor is going to tell me, yep, you got plumbing and a roof and tenants and termites and taxes, he added, referring to Strategy's co-founder, executive chairman. The best Bitcoin you will ever have in your life is the Bitcoin that someone else gives you. Yeah, baby. In some ways, Cardone's fund parallels Bitcoin treasury companies like Strategy that are hoovering up a Bitcoin-used corporate debt. Cardone argued, however, that real estate has properties as an investment that can serve as a counterbalance. We have something that has cash flows, something that doesn't, something that's liquid, something that's not, something that's very stable, and something that's very volatile. And we merge them together in one fund, he explained. The 10x Miami River Bitcoin Fund is only available to accredited investors that earn over $200,000 a year. Cardone added that his investment firm is interested in exploring mortgage products that don't exist today, combining Bitcoin with real estate. When it comes to Blackstones and Camdens of the finance world, Cardone said that many real estate investors are unable to move quickly as they like, as because of all the red tape. Eventually, he believes they could become involved in mixing Bitcoin with real estate too. They know what I'm doing, and they just can't make the transition fast enough, he said. So I probably have a 3 or 4 year head start. So it looks like he's building a condo, and if you buy into this condo somehow, he doesn't explain how exactly, but effectively you're taking rent and then you're buying Bitcoin with it. So I suppose whoever invests in this condo will have exposure to that. Now, you know, there's another take on this, and anybody who's got real estate could certainly take the rent and then buy Bitcoin, right? So I'm not sure how this is a different take, but I guess it's going to be something automatic that's done right through his real estate investment company, which is kind of a cool take, interesting, and I think he's definitely headed in the right direction, right? This is how Saylor did it. He certainly didn't start huge, but now he's worth $60 billion. So, you know, this guy, I think he's doing the right thing. Speaking of doing the right thing, we've got Russia's biggest stock exchange debuts BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin futures ETF for trading. The biggest stock exchange in Russia is adding a futures trading for asset management titan BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, one of the biggest exchange-traded funds in the world. So, to its suite of products, I think it is the biggest ETF. You know, maybe gold is bigger, but gold took over 10 years to get that big, and BlackRock's iShares ETF did it in a year. Now, just before we get into the story, I want to put things in perspective here. The total GDP of the U.S. is $23 trillion a year. China is $21 trillion. And you think Russia's huge too, because you keep hearing, you know, the war and the, you know, versus the U.S. and the Cold War. But it seems like Russia's annual GDP is only $1.5 trillion. So in terms of an economic giant, they are not. In a new announcement, Moscow Exchange, the government of Russia's venture into the world of crypto assets, says that starting on June 4th, today, it's adding support for the product, though only to accredited investors. Everything's for accredited investors, eh? You know, you can buy 0.000001 on Coinbase or any of these small exchanges, and then you actually get the Bitcoin, not in trust Bitcoin. Please note that today, June 4th, 2025, trading in the IBIT 9.25 futures contract permitted only to qualified investors begin. Qualifications checks on the exchange side will be implemented from June 23rd. IBIT, which launched in January 2024 after years of having its approval halted by the U.S. SEC, recently entered the list of top 25 ETFs in the world, coming in at just over 72.4 billion in assets under management. According to Bloomberg ETF specialist Eric Valtunis, the launch is significant because IBIT is still relatively young compared to most ETFs on the list. Here's a table of the 25 biggest ETFs and their age at 1.4 years, actually. IBIT, the youngest on the list by 9 times, is like an infant hanging with the teenagers and 20-somethings. Quite the most insane IBIT stat yet. Okay, right. So this does make sense. Yeah, Vanguard, S&P. I've talked about this in the past. This would be, if you want to look for long-term investing, a more conservative approach. You definitely want to be looking at the Vanguard IBIT, 100%. Great product. And it will treat you quite well over the long run if you're into the conservative approach, like your grandpapa, let's say. This is probably something that you want a dollar cost average into. I would suggest doing the same thing with Bitcoin, but Vanguard, excellent. The reason it's good is because the management expense ratio, the MER, is most ETFs and mutual funds, they've got this huge management expense ratio, basically a percentage that the bank or the trust or whoever you're getting from, Vanguard in this case, takes as part of their commission for doing all that hard work, right? No, Vanguard does it for 0.04, I believe is the percentage. So this is percent, not, I'm not talking 4%. I'm talking 0.04%. So virtually nothing. So this is 100% a good way to go. So yes, indeed, there's iShares Bitcoin Trust. There's the age, 1.4 years. There's the value, $72 billion. Now, I'm not surprised if Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF, which basically follows the S&P exactly. So this is why they can afford to have it so cheap. It's all computerized. There's no humans involved here. So it tracks the S&P 500 identically. So if whatever's on the S&P goes up, Microsoft or something, that will also go up, for example. And it invests in all 500 stocks on the S&P. Now you see Vanguard's in, and rightly so, in probably 10 of this top 20. But there we see the BlackRock, IBIT, iShares, Bitcoin Trust, now available in Russia as of today. Crazy. Never thought I would see the day, but that is very, very cool. Another big bank, which I never thought would be accepting Bitcoin for anything, now has a huge story here. JPMorgan to accept Bitcoin ETFs as collateral for loans. Morgan plans to woo wealthy customers with a new offering that allows them to access loans using spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds as collateral. Using spot Bitcoin. So only those. Interesting. So not actually Bitcoin. First you have to have it on the stock exchange with an ETF, and then they'll accept it. So it's not really saying much then, because I would presume that even historically they would take your regular investments as collateral anyway. So more stupidity from Chase. I don't trust these guys for the life of me. According to a Bloomberg report on June 4th, the Wall Street giant is set to expand its financial option to include spot Bitcoin ETFs. Simply put, the bank's wealthy clients will be able to use their cryptocurrency ETFs as collateral when applying for loans. And you know what? I'm not even going to go further with this bullshit story here. Not promoting JPMorgan whatsoever. They've been caught in, I think they've had $300 billion in fines over the past few years, manipulating the gold market in many instances. So I don't trust these idiots. Vanguard, on the other hand, is pretty kick butt if you are interested in the traditional financial market, and I would highly recommend those guys. Now, of course, I would also highly recommend Bitcoin, as Mr. Wonderful did at the intro of the show, and some exposure to Bitcoin is probably a good idea. Satoshi said 15 years ago, it might be a good idea to pick some up if this thing catches a good trend, and that was, it was like less than a penny. So I could say that yes, it has caught on, and probably a good idea to pick some up. And again, it would be the same kind of scenario I'd recommend, just like the Vanguard VOO, the S&P 500 ETF. You want a dollar cost average on this thing, to go in and buy, put your life savings all in one shot. I don't know if I would. But to dollar cost average into it, $100 a month, $200 a month, $25 a week, $50 a week, or more, if you can afford it, is probably a very good play. And if you want a kind of balanced approach, you go half into Vanguard ETF and you go half into Bitcoin, for example. You'll probably find that Bitcoin's going to outperform the Vanguard ETF. However, you do have that stability. Both of these plays are long-term approaches. It's not the kind of thing where, for me and most savvy investors, they are not looking to day trade. They are looking to buy something and something of value and hold it for the long run. I said it before. They asked Warren Buffett, what is your time frame for buying and selling a security, a stock? And he said, well, most day traders will hold something for a couple hours, a day, or 3 days. A savvy investor might hold something for 2, 3, 4 years. And my approach, how long do I hold it for? Forever, right? And we see Berkshire Hathaway is no slouch. They are on our list every single day. If we could flip back to it, there they are at number 12, worth over $1 trillion. So, people may not like him, old fart, this and that, money printing, big central banker, blah, blah, blah. But he's worth $1 trillion, and he's done very well in his investments. When everybody else is failing, he almost always succeeds. So his time frame is not short. His time frame is forever. So it's a similar kind of thing. You want to be buying and you want to be holding for the long-term. Investment is not a short-term proposition. Just the word investment denotes a long-term play, and this, if you want to really be successful and retire early, these are the kind of investments you want long-term. There's so much money around the world, folks. There's $900 trillion of assets around the world, so you go out there and get yours. So money is abundant because of that, and money is everywhere. It's time that's scarce, so use your time wisely. That's what I would suggest. Some basic financial literacy, spend less money than what you earn. Very straightforward. If you suddenly start making more money, start saving more money. Don't start spending more money. And as I just mentioned, start investing when you're young, ideally 18, 20, even earlier if you can, and hopefully you can retire when you're 40 or 45 and not 65 or 70 when you won't be able to do the things that you really want to do during retirement. If you've got a great idea, start with that idea right away. Even if you're not ready, start today and things will come together for you. Folks, if you enjoyed the stream, please do share, like, comment, and subscribe, because remember, at CryptoNews Global, you're not only watching CryptoNews Global, you are CryptoNews Global. Please do subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Share, like, and comment. I would love to hear what you have to say, and we will see you on the next stream. Thanks so much for joining.